And we continue at 2:05 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wings in Culver City.
John, now that the locals are upset and revolting in San Diego, some members of the city council are rethinking this charging for parking at Balboa Park thing. Although now Todd Gloria says it's too late. We already said yes to this. We have to see it through or they won't believe in us.
Oh, he's so awful.
That city council and that mayor have destroyed what used to be known as America's finest city, which is now the nickel and dime you tax you every 10 seconds city.
It took one bad mayor to do that, too.
Don't forget the city council.
What's the saying? Good things take forever and bad things happen fast.
That's what's going on in San Diego.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. He is a retired deputy chief of the San Francisco Police Department, Peter Walsh. Peter, welcome.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much for stopping by. And right now, when it comes to police issues, all eyes are on the state of Minnesota, where after an altercation with ICE officers, a woman who was a motorist in Minnesota was shot and killed by ICE officers after she declined to follow their orders. This, of course, is the same place where the George Floyd incident happened, and now Minnesota is on high alert. And the local officials are not helping the situation any, with that disgraceful mayor and the disgraceful governor fanning as many flames as humanly possible. And I've got to tell you, when I was looking at the video, and I've looked at it from any number of different angles, it's odd that there were so many different angles showing what happened on that particular day, from the front, from the back, from the side. Whatever angle you want, it exists, and it's all over social media. But a couple of things come to mind as I watched what happened play out. And that is, big city police departments have essentially been told by the political power structure in their cities to back down. Where if there's an angry mob of people, if there's a street takeover, if there's a riot, if there's whatever, and they want to burn your squad car, just let them do it. If they're going to throw objects at the cops, then just hold up your shield and try to not get hurt. But we don't want to arrest people. We don't want you to throw them in the back of the black and white. We don't want to prosecute anyone. We don't want any negative interactions between anyone out there and the cops, and we certainly don't want it on videotape. And the public watches that happen, and they understand it, and they think that they don't have to follow the orders of a police officer. They don't have to follow the rules. They don't have to follow the law. They can do whatever it is that they want, and there's no consequences to that. Well, with the feds, it's a little bit of a different situation because they don't get their paychecks from a big city mayor or a big city council. They work for the president. They work for the federal government. They work for the executive branch. And they don't play. And if you do things that you can get away with your local police department to federal law enforcement officials, you're going to get a very different reaction. And what I saw take place in that video was a woman who was trying to obstruct justice. She was trying to prevent ICE officers from being able to move down the street so they can, I guess, theoretically arrest Somali illegal aliens and deport them back to Somalia. She was upset about that, so she was trying to block their ability to do that. They told her to move the car. She wouldn't. They get out of the truck. They walk up to her. They open up the door. They tell her to get out. She slams on the gas, and there's an ICE official standing in front of her. She makes contact with the ICE official. The ICE official shoots her. That's when the car starts veering to the right, only after the woman had been shot. The bullet hole is in the windshield of the car and not on the side of the car, not on the side window, but the front window, because the bullet came from the official who was right in front of the car when she was hitting the gas. And I thought to myself, okay, well, it's unfortunate that this woman is dead, but she did something that you can't do, which is she rammed her car into a police officer. And if you ram your car into a police officer, don't be surprised if you get shot. That's how I see it. As someone who's worked in law enforcement his entire career, how do you see it?
Yeah, I find the whole thing, obviously it's a tragic loss of life. And I find what is very appalling about the situation is the fact of, in this situation, especially with the mayor coming out and completely convicting the individual ICE officer as of committing murder, and there's no self-defense, et cetera. And what's really important, I think, and what I would like to make sure everybody understands is that officer is reasonable only as another officer who would be in that situation at that scene. And there's no benefit to hindsight, meaning that that is a tragic ending to have somebody killed by an officer. But just because there may have been a different way of doing it, if in fact that force was reasonable, objectively reasonable, that outcome is justified. And if you watch that whole scene, there's several factors that are going into it. That officer, and I'm not sure if you've seen the video, is circling the vehicle. At first, he looks like he's videoing it maybe, or observing it. And by the time he gets to the front, that's when the other officer is holding on to the door, trying to open the door and handle it, and the car starts to move forward. So in this particular set of circumstances, as viewed by the video, and I'm only going by the videos because we don't have an officer statement, we don't have body camera, we don't have individual statements from the other officers there or any of the civilians, it appears that he may have two legitimate claims. One, to defense of himself, that he's not going to get run over and killed by a multi-thousand-pound vehicle. And two, that the other officer isn't going to suffer either death or great bodily harm by being dragged by the car. What's interesting in the state of mind, I think it's come out today, is he may have been involved in a very similar incident prior to this several months ago. So that all goes into the play and into what that individual officer is thinking at the time. Another thing I've kind of picked up on in watching the videos, and I think the people need to understand, is if you watch not only that officer who fires after, he's either limping or he is slipping on the ground. Now, remember, this is Minneapolis, cold. We're here in California, so taking in the terrain is another factor that he may not be able to get out of the way. So escape might not be necessarily available. And second, if you watch the video from behind, there's another officer who's not with the first two who try to direct her to get out of the car, but he falls, and one of the original officers trying to get out of the car helps him up. So you have a terrain issue also in this. So for the mayor to come out and automatically say there's no way this can be justified sets up an entire, not just Minneapolis PD, not just the ICE agents and feds, but just like George Floyd, burns across the country and puts every officer under an unfair microscope on how they interact. And I think we're almost seeing a repeat of that at this point today.
When I was starting out my career, I remember there was a police-involved shooting in Long Beach involving a guy by the name of Douglas Zerby, who I think was blowing a .4 or over a .4 at the time that he got shot by the cops. And the guy was an alcoholic and was clearly blasted out of his mind at the time that he got shot. And he was causing a disturbance, and cops showed up because people were calling 911. The guy had what looked like a gun. It turned out to be a water nozzle that was shaped like a gun, one of those old-fashioned ones. And he was just pointing at different people at an apartment complex as if he was pointing a gun at them, and if people thought that they might get shot. So they called the cops to come down there and deal with it. And the cops show up, and he takes the water nozzle and he points it directly at one of the police officers, and the police officers shoot him and kill him. And it became a big controversy because the family was very upset, and I think they ended up suing the city of Long Beach. And I remember taking a call from a caller who said, well, the cops had no right to shoot him. And I said, well, if the cops show up and they see someone pointing what looks like a gun directly at them, a reasonable person would assume that their life is in jeopardy and they need to react. Otherwise, they might get shot and killed. And the answer was, well, they should take a round or two to confirm it before they fire at the person pointing what looks like a gun at them. And I said, you can't do that. You can't just be expected to take a round or two because you might not be around to fire back at that point. And I've seen many of the same arguments regarding this case in Minnesota, where people go, well, yeah, she hit him with the car, but it was more of a love tap than really her trying to run him over and kill him. I don't think that he should have assumed that because she hit him with the car that she was going to keep going and run him over. And life doesn't work like that. If some person who is not following the rules and is clearly there with the intention of breaking the law is hitting you with their car, it is reasonable to assume that they have no problem running you over.
Yeah, I think a lot of people lose sight, and we always had to explain this, and I think I will give a shout out to the San Francisco Police Department. We would have a town hall within 10 days and release a very neutral fact pattern of what evidence we had at that time, not coming to any conclusions. But one of the things people forget, this isn't just about being killed. This is about great bodily injury. So if the officer gets love tapped on an icy concrete street and falls down and then is run over by a vehicle breaking both his legs, that is still a deadly force and response is still available. It doesn't mean that you have to be killed. It's also to prevent the fact of someone suffering great bodily injury or death. So by you taking rounds, which I've actually heard at past town hall meetings we've had, et cetera, is just absurd. But it's also something why law enforcement needs to get out there and be practical. And, my one hope for ICE and the DOJ is that they put out something in the similar neutral fact pattern going, hey, these are the reasons that we have. So they'll have an interview. I'm not sure about the body camera situation. I haven't been able to find out if, there is body camera of this. That is always some great evidentiary because it's a kind of a neutral capture of the moment, and it's generally from what the officer is seeing. It's not perfect, and it's only one piece of the puzzle, but officers don't have to be battered and beaten, killed, and injured before they defend themselves. And again, I go back to the standards a little different, and they're constitutional standards found in two key cases that every officer through the country knows, Graham and Tennessee versus Gardner. And they both basically say that it has to be objectively reasonable at that moment and necessary to stop like a imminent lethal threat. And I think if you have those things, officers are in good standing. And I read the DHS policy, and it looks almost very similar to a San Francisco Police Department policy or a policy you'd see at any police or sheriff's office. So I think that once more factors come out, I'm very interested to know why the car was perpendicular to ICE leaving or moving through an area. Did she just pull out and get caught, or was she blocking it? I mean, I've heard she was a legal observer. That kind of changes when you start interfering and obstructing. We would always have the National Lawyers Guild send out people with bright green hats. And as long as they stood to the side, they could take as many notes and they could video us, and we were happy for that. We believe in that constitutional right. Keep a look on government, including police. But once you start crossing the line into interfering or obstructing the duties of police, or in this case, federal officers, being a legal observer, being a person just in the crowd does not then allow you to just leave a scene when an officer tells you, hey, we need to talk to you, get out of the car, or please come over here. So I think there's a lot of issues still up in the air on this case. And again, I just point to coming to a conclusion as so astonishing as saying it can't be self-defense, it can't be justified. And I've seen terms from elected officials such as murder, and murderer poised to this member of law enforcement. It's completely appalling.
Let's go back to the mayor and the governor for a second, because these two are phonies, jerks, and appalling. They are fanning the flames because they think it will benefit them politically, where we saw the mayor run against a DSA candidate. So the threat that is posed against him and his political power comes from the left. So he doesn't want to be outflanked over there. Then you have the governor, who is knee deep in a scandal involving fraud, that his his office was supposed to keep an eye on and clearly didn't, and he's become an international disgrace over that. And now what they're doing to try to take the eyes off of all of that, or what, to try to, I guess, solidify their power, is to inflame their population as much as possible. And they're trying to position themselves as a foil to Donald Trump in doing so, and they don't seem to care if their state burns.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the video, but what was really interesting to me is later in the day, I think the crime scene was probably wrapped up and the Minneapolis officers and street officers showed up to the scene. And I don't know if it was the beginning of a march or a demonstration, et cetera, but they were taking snowballs. And I know that doesn't sound like anything, but, you know, I think we've all been hit by snowballs filled with ice that are not what we did when we were kids. They were basically kind of pushed out of that area. And the one thing I noticed right out of the gate, where there was two signs, one I couldn't read, one banner had FTP, which I am all too familiar with from my days of working in patrol during George Floyd riots and things here in San Francisco, and that's F the police. So we've now, with this rhetoric, gone from there might be this case that we really need to look at of an ICE agent, which should be thoroughly and investigated, and no one disagrees with that, to we are now going to target our local law enforcement. And I think this is just going back to empowering people to, you know, denigrate law enforcement and capture it all as one, regardless of individual acts or even agencies. And I think that's what you see when you have this rhetoric. I mean, your own police department that has gone out of its way, and I think you've seen the statements by the chief and other people, to be on your side, to be on the community side, and it just automatically turns. You know, the correct thing to do is to calm the community, tell them there's going to be an independent investigation. We'll get you information with our federal partners and partner up with them. But when you have this adversarial relationship that breaks the bonds between local and state agencies and a federal agency, that's never good. And it causes mistrust. And who's going to be the recipient of that mistrust? The local and state agencies, because at some point, ICE and the FBI are not going to be in that area. They're not going to be there day to day, but your teams are. And you know, you're presenting your team now more as the foil than going after your political, you know, adversaries.
Peter Walsh, retired deputy chief of the San Francisco Police Department. Thanks so much for stopping by. We thank you for loaning us your expertise.
Thank you, John. Have a great day.
Let's go to Mike in San Francisco. Mike, hello.
I said Paul in San Francisco.
Okay, we'll try Paul.
Yes, hello there. I like to suggest that the mayor of Minneapolis and the governor of Minnesota go to certain neighborhoods in that state without their bodyguard and see how they feel. And maybe what would happen if the bodyguard had to use a weapon to protect them? What would the outcome be?
Well, that's the way it always is. It's one set of rules for us and one set of rules for everyone else. I mean, look at Gavin Newsom and the French Laundry. Look at how often you see these environmentalists flying around on private jets. That's the way that people in power typically act. They don't want to follow their own rules. They want you to follow their rules. If their life was in danger, they would be expected, or they would do what was necessary to protect it, but they don't want the ICE officials to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of liberals are ones who haven't been mugged yet.
Well, that's the old saying. Who was it that said that a conservative is just a liberal who's been mugged?
Right, yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir.
You know, John, when I think of bodyguards for mayors, I think of a bodyguard for former Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, who had to put himself in front of a different kind of harm's way.
That's very true. He had to deal with an octopus.
I receive things on both ends.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. If you want to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And coming up next week, Randy, we're going to Pineapple Hill.
We're going back to Sherman Oaks, everybody, and so are you. This is one of our favorite venues. We have a lot of great venues that we get to do live remotes at. And by the way, we want more of them. And if you get a venue that you want to put up and do a remote at, email us, and we'll connect you with our salespeople, johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. But we love going to Gladstone's in Long Beach with John Segmeister, and we love going to the Pineapple Hill in Sherman Oaks with Angela Marsden. We're going to be there next Friday, January 16th from noon to 3, our first big event of the year, a live broadcast of the John Phillips Show. They've got great food there, great drinks. In fact, now there's a bar on the patio, and it's a good time. But we're also there for a very important cause, and this is why we need you to go and show your support. Otherwise, you won't be able to live here anymore, because Susan Shelley from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association is going to join us. The courts have made it easier to raise your taxes. Come by and sign the petition to save Prop 13, and you can work ahead of time. It's real easy. Go to saveprop13.com, and all the instructions there are how to print out, sign, and send in the petition. You could also bring it with you in person or sign it at the event. We'll tell you more about your taxpayer rights and protecting Prop 13. So that's where we're going to be next Friday from noon to 3. By the way, if you're in the Bay Area, you've got credit card points. You can get a cheap flight from San Francisco to Burbank and be there next Friday. We'd love to see you. And we'd love to be doing some remotes in the Bay Area. So if you've got a venue that you'd like to put up for that, email us. Let's get in contact. johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. We'll see you Friday the 16th from noon to 3 in Sherman Oaks at the Pineapple Hill.
And right now, it's time to open up the California Crime Blotter.
It's happened yet again.
I see. Time for the California Crime Blotter.
And Randy, the first edition takes us to the city of Irvine.
Irvine in the news in the Crime Blotter twice in 1 week. First, we have the jackasses who were trying to steal handbags that got attacked by the canines. And now we have what I consider a crime that we've never done before in 7 years of the Crime Blotter on this show, Johnny. And that is someone stealing caviar.
Did they steal crackers too?
I would assume so. Maybe some toast points. For more, we go to CBS LA.
Police in Irvine sharing security video of a high-end theft tonight.
Nearly $2,000 worth of merchandise stolen, but as CBS LA's Michelle Geely shows us,
Which is like, what, 3 cans of caviar?
this bandit didn't get away with jewelry or clothes.
Police in Irvine say this man in black, captured on security video, is walking out of a grocery store with several containers of expensive caviar worth $1,700.
Now, I got to imagine there's no like black market. You're not taking stolen caviar to the Mission in San Francisco or MacArthur Park. What exactly are you doing with stolen caviar outside of, I don't know, eating it because you want to pretend you're part of the glitterati?
I don't think this is for resale. I think this is for personal consumption.
He went around trying to look like a shopper. He did put other items into his basket, selected the caviar, put it into a brown paper bag, and then left only with that material, left the other products behind.
The unusual heist happened last week, a few days before New Year's Eve at Whole Foods on Irvine Center Drive.
Okay, someone was trying to throw the best party of all time but couldn't afford the caviar. By the way, that Whole Foods in Irvine has a great wine bar.
The unusual heist happened last week, a few days before New Year's Eve at Whole Foods on Irvine Center Drive. A dozen cans of caviar were stolen, ranging in price from $99 to $170.
I've occasionally, there's been like a tiny bit of caviar on some appetizer I had at a restaurant. I've never bought a can of caviar. I can't imagine that's worth the price unless you have FU money.
Okay, so when she was alive, my happy hour buddy was Suzanne Summers. Big Al's bar, her husband, Alan Hamill, used to pour the drinks, and Suzanne used to provide the food. She was a cook. She liked to host. She liked to come up with all kinds of fancy recipes. She was very organic, very much into health food, those kinds of things. And one of the staples at Big Al's bar for things to nosh on was caviar and crackers. And until her house, I had never eaten caviar in my entire life. I've always just kind of avoided it. Or maybe there's just a dollop here and there on some other dish. And I couldn't get enough of this caviar at her house. And I would just eat it every time I would go over there. And I finally said, I feel guilty eating your caviar every time you put it out because I feel like I've eaten tens of thousands of dollars worth of caviar over here. And she said, you want to know my secret? And I said, sure. She said, I buy it at Costco. Apparently you can buy caviar at Costco. And she said, it's really affordable.
That's wild.
I don't know that we've had $1,700 worth of fish eggs stolen, but
I've always been confused why if the fish eggs are red, you go to a sushi bar and it's like one of the cheapest things on the menu. But if the fish eggs are black, now it costs you hundreds of dollars for a can.
And you better have a black credit card to pay for it with.
I don't know that we've had $1,700 worth of fish eggs stolen, but definitely a large amount. And I don't know what he did with it. That's the million-dollar question.
What do you think he did with it?
Again, he stole some crackers, too.
Police say an employee who had stocked the caviar section December 29th noticed
How dusty is that section?
It's got to be real dusty.
Noticed a short time later that all of the product was missing. A check of the store cameras revealed this man.
I mean, Irvine's a nice area, but it's mostly upper middle class. It's not necessarily full of people that are caviaring it up on New Year's Eve.
I wonder if someone's going to see the video, recognize the person, and say, I was at that guy's house on New Year's Eve. I ate that caviar. It's stolen.
A check of the store cameras revealed this man, officials say, making off with the high-end merchandise. This photo is featured on the Wanted Wednesday post on Irvine PD's social media page.
Once again, proving that Irvine PD doesn't have that much to do, so this is a top priority case for them. America's safest city. Caviar theft is the biggest crime they're dealing with.
So this Wanted Wednesday category is very, very successful in our social media. We often get tips on cases that we wouldn't ordinarily solve. So we're hoping that one of your viewers notices this fishy suspect and...
Oh, boy.
Okay, it was the man on the street, or I guess the cop on the street here. That was not the reporter. Can't blame it on them.
No, that's the Irvine PD, who, again, have so little to actually do because their city is so safe that they have time to come up with fish puns.
Gives us a call.
In Irvine, Michelle Geely, CBS LA.
There you go. If you were at a New Year's party in Orange County and someone brought caviar and it seemed very out of character, now you know why.
And Randy, it's time to reopen the blotter.
It's happened yet again.
It's Wild Wild West out here.
Dun, 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 dun. It's the California Crime Blotter with John
and Randy.
And Randy, to my memory, will be the second time that Pokemon has made the blotter.
This week.
Oh, my.
Pokemon has made the blotter a lot lately because Pokemon cards are worth a lot of money, which means people are getting robbed at gunpoint for Pikachus and Charizards and Bulbasaurs. For more, here's ABC 7 Eyewitness News in Los Angeles.
Two separate cases. Thieves are going after Pokemon cards. No arrests have been made in...
Well, it's Los Angeles. Actually,
a staple of every LA blotter story.
The second one's in Simi Valley, and that's odd because Simi Valley is not LA County, it's Ventura County, and famously, do you know who lives in Simi Valley, John?
A lot of retired cops.
Yep.
Two separate cases. Thieves are going after Pokemon cards. No arrests have been made in either incident.
As Eyewitness News reporter Sid Garcia explains, the reported losses are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
For Pokemon.
More than the caviar.
He was just leaving, trying to go home.
Last night at the RWT Collective in West Los Angeles, one of the regulars was robbed at gunpoint in the building's underground parking lot. Danny Lesserman and Christopher Chow co-own the collective. They shared these images of the two men. When LAPD detectives showed up, were told the victim positively ID'd these men as the two who robbed him. The owners tell me.
At this point, if you're walking out of a card shop with a $100,000 Mewtwo card, you're going to need one of those briefcases they put the nuclear codes in.
The owners
Very Ocean's 11 of them.
The owners tell me they're already working on adding more security.
We're going to keep increasing our security systems, too. We're going to get...
Well, This didn't happen inside your store. It happened outside your store. So how much security can you get for that?
Yeah, that's more of a placebo.
We're going to get more cameras into the building, things like that.
There was evidence of that today. Property management had a crew this morning installing surveillance cameras in the parking area and around the building. The owners also say they're working with property management on having armed guards at the store and the building.
Armed guards for Pokemon cards?
They're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's not really, sure, it might sound silly, but when it comes to the value of the merchandise, there's no difference between a trading card store nowadays and a high-end jewelry store. And you know the high-end jewelry store has armed guards.
Armed guards at the store and the building. We're told the approximate value of the Pokemon cards stolen at RWT Collective is around $300,000.
By the way, this is one of those self-fulfilling prophecies. The more stories on the news about how valuable Pokemon cards are, the more we're going to see more armed robberies and burglaries of anyone that has anything to do with Pokemon.
Well, we know that the crooks watch the news.
There's been a string of similar robberies in Southern California. Also over the weekend, burglars broke into a Simi Valley store, taking with them valuable Pokemon cards.
It's because so many people have decided that their big investment in life is going to be some collectible they got when they were in high school. You have seen in the last year, there was a big wave of Lego robberies and burglaries. Then for a while in the middle of the year, it was that new hot thing, the Labubu's, but that kind of went away. Now it's all about the Pokemon cards.
It's so stupid to me that these things are worth $1 gazillion, and it's stupid to me that adults would risk going to prison stealing them.
Is it any dumber than the stock market?
Good point.
What makes these game cards so valuable?
Most of the time they're used and they're not, in the good enough quality to be considered collectible. And so when they do raise to that level, that's when the dollar amount can really get to be something pretty out there.
And law enforcement, they're comparing.
I had a binder full of these things in high school, and we don't know what happened to it, but my brother has searched every inch of my parents' house for it because he's convinced it's worth thousands.
Were there any armed robberies at your house that you're aware of?
Maybe.
And law enforcement, they're comparing notes to see if the robberies are somehow connected.
I would guarantee in this, especially because one was in LA County, one was in Ventura County, these aren't connected. This is just the new hot thing the criminals are stealing, and maybe it's a stereotype, but they're assuming that your average Pokemon card collector isn't armed.
In West LA, I'm Sid Garcia, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
There you go. 2 more Pokemon card thefts this week. I'm sure next week we'll have even more.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. And right now it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
I know.
We couldn't make this stuff up if we tried.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
It's the California Crime Blotter.
And this edition takes us to Diamond Bar, which is very close to Claremont, where I went to graduate school. And you may not believe me, but it's true. Probably the most famous resident of Diamond Bar is Snoop Dogg. And I know this because he used to do his shopping in downtown Claremont, and you'd see him around all the time.
Snoopers. Well, I don't think this happened in Snoopers' neighborhood, but a gated community in Diamond Bar had a burglary. And I thought that's the whole point of paying those HOA fees is this crap doesn't happen. For more, here is Fox 11 in Los Angeles.
Other news tonight, some residents in Diamond Bar are worried for their safety after a highly coordinated home invasion burglary. Fox 11's Laura Diaz is live in Diamond Bar tonight with a story you'll see only on Fox 11. Laura?
Yes, Christine, that Diamond Bar family is still traumatized by what happened to them. As you just mentioned, their home, which is in a gated community, was broken into at the beginning of this month. Now, it was highly calculated how they carried it out. And once they got inside, according to the family, they got away with $1 million worth of really expensive designer items.
Oh, my.
What is the point of living in an HOA and having to deal with the Karens and all of their letters and all of their harassment if you can't even live your life without having $1 million taken from you in a robbery?
Very angry and very sad. It's just seeing that people just come in here and just take your stuff. It's like free for all for them.
This quiet street, located in the gated community of Diamond Crest Estates in Diamond Bar, looks serene Tuesday night. But the 6 people who live in this home are shaken to the core. Their home was broken into December 3rd, 11 in the morning, stealing $1 million worth of high-end purses, jewelry, and sports memorabilia. Only empty.
They have OJ cards?
Well, OJ went to jail for stealing back his stuff.
What's going on, America?
Well, we know this wasn't him because he's 6 feet in the ground.
Only empty boxes left behind. As you see in this ring footage obtained from a neighbor across the street, 2 men in a black Lexus SUV are dropped off, and according to the people who live inside, the pair quickly broke into their home.
How'd the Lexus get into the gated community?
That's a very good question. Did they claim that they were delivering a pizza or something?
By shattering an upstairs window and downstairs sliding door. Likely, they were met by the family's barking dog. According to the homeowners, the family pet, who's usually barks a lot and would have been a deterrent, was promptly brought in here by the assailants and placed into this cage.
Like they cut off the power.
Wait, the criminals figured out they could just crate the dog and the dog would shut up?
Boy, criminals are learning a whole lot from the news today.
Jewelry, watches, my wife's diamond ring, how you call it, just basically just in general, almost like our whole savings, when you, almost like 15, 20 years you work for, basically what it is, basically gone in one hour.
The burglars gained access to the second floor where they broke into a safe.
John, what do we say about safes?
Safes don't work.
Where the valuables were hidden in the bedroom. Why such perfect timing? Well, it turns out a hidden camera was planted in the neighbor's trees. The suspects were keeping a watchful eye on this unsuspecting family.
Okay, so it must be really easy to get into this gated community.
I'd want my HOA dues back.
Lurking in the trees, danger and opportunity. This family offers advice.
Let everyone know that, protect yourself.
That wasn't much advice.
And to add to this whole dilemma, the family does not have insurance.
Uh-oh.
How do they not have insurance? Do they just own the home outright?
Well, I think they have home insurance. I think what she's saying is, like a jewelry store, they don't have insurance on their high-end merchandise, which is... That's a bad idea. I mean, even if it's just you lose your ring down the kitchen sink and you turn the garbage disposal on, if you have a ring that's worth more than $10,000, get that insured.
And to add to this whole dilemma, the family does not have insurance. They say that they've added cameras and they've added heightened security to their home, but that won't replace the $1 million worth of items that were taken.
So there you go, gated community and Diamond Bar burglary. And once again, we've learned that safes are not safe.